Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to our Tuesday evening Bhagavad Gita discussion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinim Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone. So today we are starting our Bhagavad Gita Chapter 8. Last time we finished Chapter 7 discussion with the last set of verses where Lord Krishna is talking about from the demigod worship to the process of devotion, how people progresses unto the process of devotion and ultimately they can attain the Supreme Lord. Or at the time of death also, they can remember the Supreme Lord. So Lord Krishna introduced many terms in the last two verses of chapter 7. And chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita starts with Arjuna's questions, as typical with many other chapters. So in the beginning of chapter 8, the two verses, Arjuna is asking about 8 questions. And these 8 questions are related to the new terminology, the words which Lord Krishna has introduced in the last two verses of chapter 7. So as a flow of this chapter 8, we will understand this chapter by the acronym DEAD, D-E-A-D. The chapter is titled as Attaining the Absolute. It's also called Akshara Brahma Yoga. And attaining the absolute, if we translate in English or in Hindi, it will be Bhagavad Prapti. So that is the title of this chapter, Bhagavad Prapti. Okay, so how to attain the Supreme in this lifetime. So the acronym, as I said, we will use DEAD, D-E-A-D. So the first set of verses is Arjuna's doubts. Okay, so D is doubts, Arjuna's question, which he is asking Lord Krishna. And then out of all these questions which Arjuna is asking, Lord Krishna is focusing on the last question of Arjuna, because that is the most important question. Okay, and so the next section 5 to 8, those 4 verses, Lord Krishna is summarizing the answer to that last question. So E is end of life. So Arjuna's specific question, as we will discuss further, prayāṇa-kāle cha katham gyosyasi. So how to understand, how to remember the Supreme at the time of death. So E is end of life, or what we call as the law of last thought. Okay. And then the next set of verses, Krishna is further going to elaborate on this attaining the Supreme. Okay, so 9 to 22, those verses, Krishna is talking about attaining the Supreme, how the different devotees in with different process, how they attain the Supreme, how they remember the Supreme. So how a Yoga Mishra Bhakta remembers the Supreme, how a Shuddha Bhakta remembers the Supreme, and remembrance by comparing the material and spiritual world. Okay, so when the devotee remembers the characteristics of the spiritual world and compare it with the material world, and leading to the remembrance of Supreme in that way. So in different categories, how the devotee remembers, so attaining the Supreme. And then the last set of verses, 23 to 28, Krishna is specifically talking about devotion and emphasizing that remembrance by bhakti is easier than remembrance by other process, such as Ashtanga Yoga or something. So again, the last D is devotion. So the acronym is DEAD, DEAD, D for doubts, A for end of life, E for end of life, A for attaining the Supreme, and D for devotion. Okay, so that is the flow. Now we start with Arjuna's question. Text 1 and 2 is Arjuna's question. Arjuna uvacha kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottamah adibhutam cha kim proktam adidevam kim uchyate. So in this one verse itself, Arjuna has asked 5 questions. Kim tad brahmam? And Arjuna is addressing Lord Krishna as Purushottam, that you are the Supreme Lord, and you please answer these questions or remove my doubts. Okay, so here 5 questions asked is Kit Tad Brahma? What is that Brahma? Kim Adhyatmam? What is the self? What is Adhyatam? Kim Karma? What is Karma? What are the fruitive activities? Adibhutam Chakim? What is this Adibhuta? Proktam Adidevam Kim Uchyate? And what is this controller or the supreme of the devatas? What are these demigods? Proktam Adidevam. So please explain this to me. So Arjuna has asked these 5 questions, and in the text second, Arjuna continues with his questions. Adhi yagyam katham ko atra dehi asmin madhusudana prayāṇa-kāle cha katham gyayasi nitya attamabhi. So again, Arjuna is addressing Krishna as Madhusudana. And Arjuna is asking, Adhi Yagya Katham, who is the Lord of sacrifice? And Dehe Asmin, how is that Lord of sacrifice lives in this body? O Madhusudana. prayāṇa-kāle cha katham gyayo asi. And how one can engage in devotional service knows you at the time of death. So how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? prayāṇa-kāle cha katham gyayo asi. So these are the total 8 questions. Yeah, and Arjuna is addressing Krishna as Madhusudana, and there is a specific importance of this word Madhusudana here. Why Krishna or why Arjuna is addressing Krishna as Madhusudana? Because Krishna has killed a demon named Madhu. And these doubts which are coming in the mind, they are also like the demons. And that's why Arjuna is addressing Krishna. Please kill this demon of doubts which has arisen in my mind. So please answer these questions and remove my doubts. So Arjuna has asked these questions. And from where did this question come into Arjuna's mind? As I said, in the last 2 verses, Krishna has introduced these all the terms. Text 729, Krishna talked about Jara Marna Mokshaya Mama Shritya Yayantiye Te Brahma Tad Vidhu Kritnasya Adhyatam Karam Shakhilam. So here in this verse, Krishna has introduced 3 terms. Okay, Brahma, Adhyatama, and Karma. And then in the next verse, text 30, Krishna has introduced another 4 terms. Adibhutam, Sa Adibhutam, Adidevam Mam, Sa Adi Yagyam cha me ye vidhu, prayāṇa-kāle api cha mam te vidhuri ukta chetasah. So here also Krishna has introduced these terms, that one who knows me as the governing principle of the Adibhuta, the governing principle of all the demigods, the governing principle of all the yagyas, and one can attain me even at the time of death, prayāṇa-kāle. So Krishna has introduced these terms, and Arjuna is now asking, can you please explain to me these terms? What is Brahman? What is Adhyatam? What is karma? What is Adibhuta? What is Adideva? What is Adi Yagya? How that Adi Yagya lives in the body, and how to remember you at the time of death, or how to know you at the time of death. So after saying this, Krishna is now going to answer. In the remaining chapter, Krishna is answering all these questions, and specifically Krishna is focusing on the last question of Arjuna. So in next two texts, Krishna is going to answer all other questions, first 7 questions. And then the whole remaining chapter is focused on the last question, and which shows how important that question is. So it is also very important to know what questions one should ask and how to ask questions. First of all, asking questions is very important. Okay, and as I said in our Saturday class also, all the scriptures are based on question answer format. Bhagavad Gita is question answer format, Bhagavatam is question answer format. One person is speaking, another person is inquiring, and that's how the whole discussion progresses. So whole discussion of Bhagavad Gita is question answer. It's not that Krishna is simply just going on speaking, explaining, and no opportunity to ask questions for Arjuna. Krishna is not making it as a dogmatic, that, oh, just listen, don't ask questions. So Krishna is, in one sense, encouraging Arjuna to ask questions, and at the end also Krishna is going to ask, right? At the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asks Arjuna, so all your questions are answered now, all your doubts are removed, or you still have any more questions? I'm ready to explain again. So Arjuna is a student, and to increase his faith, Krishna has spoken in 4th chapter also that I have explained this subject matter to other people also, right? It's like in an institute, they put a poster and they will show their previous year toppers or the accomplished alumni on the poster to show to the fresh comers, new students, that yes, these are the graduates from this college who are working in very high positions now, or they are in a well-to-do position now. So you are in a good place, right? To encourage the newcomers. Same way Krishna also had told Arjuna earlier in chapter 4, Krishna says, Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam. Vivasvan manaveh praha manur ikshwake ev abrabit. I told this science of yoga to Bhivaswan. Bhivaswan spoke it to Manu. Manu gave it to further kings, like that. So in that way, this knowledge was passed on. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that yes, this knowledge was understood by others also, and I'm going to explain this to you also. So now text 3 to 7, Krishna is answering all these questions, 3 to 8 specifically actually. So 3 to 4, text number 3 and 4, Krishna is answering the first 7 questions. So what is Brahman? So Krishna says Brahman is what is known as Akshara, what is indestructible. Now we can understand the soul is also indestructible, soul is also eternal, soul is also unborn, and the super soul is also is eternal, unborn. So what is Brahman? Different acharyas, when Krishna says Brahman is Akshara, which is beyond any destruction, Akshara. Kshara means which destroy gradually. Akshara means which does not destroy. So Brahman is Akshara, and different acharyas has given different explanations. Okay, some acharyas in our parampara, specifically let's say Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says Brahman, what Krishna is referring to here, is the Supreme Lord. And Baldev Vidyabhushan and Srila Prabhupada, they are writing or translating Brahman as the living entity, the Jiva, the soul. That Brahman, the soul, Brahman is referring to soul here. which is indestructible. And the Supreme Lord is referred as Parabrahman. Okay, so Brahman here is addressing to the living entity, the Jiva. And then Adhyatma, what is Adhyatma? So here Adhyatma is referred to Swabhava. The Jiva is also sometimes referred to as Adhyatma. Atma is means the living entity, and Adhyatma means the eternal living entity. Or the meaning of Swabhava can be that which causes one to attain the Paramatma. So Swa means the Lord in this case, and in this case, Adhyatma refers to purified Jiva. So since only the pure Jiva is qualified to attain Paramatma. And also Adhyatma can refer to the Swabhava as the nature of the living entity. Okay, what is the nature of the living entity? It is never to be cut by weapon, withered by the wind, drowned by the water, burnt by the fire. So Swabhava is the impressions which are on to the living entity by which it continues its journey. So Brahma can refer to the Supreme Lord, it can refer to the living entity. Here Srila Prabhupada is writing Brahman refers to the living entity and Adhyatma refers to the impressions on that living entity, the Swabhava. And karma is activities performed by the living entity under the influence of three modes. Okay, so because of these activity which the living entity is performing, the living entity keep going in different species of life based on that karmic reaction. Okay, so for example, the air by nature is pure, but when the air goes through the flower garden, it can take the fragrance, it can carry the fragrance with it. If the same air passes over the gutter system, it can take the foul smell. So air by nature is pure, but based on what object it associates with, it gets the influence of that. Same way the living entity is pure by nature, but when it comes in contact with the material nature by the influence of three mode, it performs various activities which bind the living entity in this material world. So that is called karma. So the action pertaining to the development of material bodies of the living entity, okay, is called karma. On the other side, the actions performed by the Lord, they are not called karma because for the Lord there is no binding in this material world. So the activities performed by the Lords are called lila, whereas the activity performed by the living entity are called karma. Okay, so that is karma. Here three questions are answered. Then adi bhutam. What is adi bhuta? The word bhuta, now we refer to bhuta as ghost. Okay, right? People call ghost as bhuta in Hindi. But what is adi bhuta? Bhuta refers to specifically the object which is not seen, invisible, like the water, air inside the body is not visible to us. Even our mind and intelligence is not visible to us. So they are also called bhuta. And ghost is called bhuta for the same reason because it's invisible to our eyes. So that's why the ghost is referred as bhuta. But here adi bhuta, what is adi bhuta? That the physical manifestation which is constantly changing. Kshara. So Krishna says in the verse, the word uses Kshara, not akshara, kshara. Kshara means which is constantly changing, which gradually dwindles. So Adi Bhuta is Kshara, which is dwindling gradually. Jैसे in Hindi we use the word मिट्टी में मिल जाना, मिट्टी में मिला देना. From where did this word come? That come from the word Kshara, which gradually dwindles. It gets into dust. So Adi Bhuta is this material nature which is constantly changing, or it also refers to these material bodies because this material body also dwindles gradually. The material body passes through the six stages. Okay, the body is born, then grow, it remains for some duration, then it produces the byproducts, then it dwindles, then vanishes. So these are the 6 stages of transmigration. So these material bodies are referred to as Adi Bhutam, and also the material creation, the material nature itself can be referred as Adi Bhutam, because this material nature is created at a certain time and will be annihilated at a certain time. Then Adi Devam. Adi Devam, the conception of the universal form of the Supreme Lord, which includes all the Devi Devatas and their different planets also, is called Adi Devam. So Devam means all the Devi Devatas, and Adi Devam means who is the um, origin of all these Devi Devatas. So that is Adi Devam. And then Adi Yagyo. Adi Yagyo means the enjoyer of all the yagyas. So Arjuna is asking, who is this Adi Yagyo? Who is the super soul, the enjoyer of all the yagya? Because we know Indra is also known as the enjoyer of yagya, and Vishnu is also known as the enjoyer of yagya. So who is specifically this Adi Yagyo? Is it referring to Indra or is it referring to Lord Vishnu? And how that Adi Yagya resides within this body? That was his next question. So this clarifies itself that it is not referring to Indra, it is referring to Vishnu, because Indra is also a living entity. He is not residing as super soul within everybody. The Lord Vishnu is residing as super soul within every living entity. So Adi Yagya here refers to the Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna. He is the Adi Yagya, and he is residing within this body as the super soul, and he is the presiding divinity over all the yagyas, and one who bestows the rewards of all the actions also. Even all the Devi Devatas, he facilitates to them and they provides the benediction to the performer. Right? So he is the super soul. Lord Vishnu as super soul is the enjoyer of all the yagyas. And then there is a whole detail of the system of sacrifice, right, which was described in chapter 3 also. So we'll not spend again too much time on that one. And the last question which Arjuna asked specifically was prayāṇa-kāle, at the time of death, how to remember the Supreme. So out of all these questions, the last one, how to remember you at the time of death, is most important. One may know the Brahman, one may know Adhyatam, one may know the super soul, one may know Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, one may know everything. But if he is not able to remember him at the time of death, then what is the use of knowing all that? Then all the knowledge is useless. So that's why this last question is very important. And if one understands the how to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death and why to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death, even not how. If one understands why to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death, the how one will figure out automatically, right? Why is more important. Once why is clear, how becomes very easy. So that's why Lord Krishna is focusing on this last question, and also why it is important to remember the Lord. So generally the time of death is considered as a very difficult time, very difficult situation. Okay? Just think, when we have little problem, our life is disturbed and routine is disturbed. When you have little cough, cold, headache, body pain. So when you have little problem, the life is disturbed, then what will be the situation at the time of death? How much trouble one experiences, how much pain or this difficulty one experiences at the time of death. That's why a great saint, Maharaj Kulakshekhara, he prays that, my dear Lord, just right now I'm quite healthy, and it's better that I die immediately, so that the swan of my mind can seek entrance at the stem of your lotus feet. prayāṇa-kāle kaphavata pitta kanta avaruddhaye. He says at the time of death, the throat is choked, kaphavata pitte, and at that time, how will I be able to remember you? So better I give up my life right now when I am very healthy and I'm able to remember you right now. So let me give up my life. So the whole chapter is focused on art of dying. How to give up our body, how to give up this life. Generally, nobody want to talk about death or think about death. If somebody talks about death, and let's say in ISKCON, we are talking about how to give up life, or this life is, there are problems at every step of life. People say, oh, you are very pessimistic. Why you keep about talking about problems? Why you talk about death? When it will come, it will come. Why to keep talking about that? But one has to understand that it's not about being pessimistic, it's about being realistic. Right? It's real. Death is going to come one day, and are we preparing ourselves for that time, for that situation? So the situation that nobody want to experience, but everyone has to face, that is death. Now nobody can say I will live forever. And how many of us were there in 1960s? Maybe one or two of us here. And how many of us will think we will live till 2060? Okay, nobody can guarantee up to what time we will live. Only a small child who is maybe 5, 10 years old maybe can say, yes, I will be there by 2060. So if we see all around us, how many people of the age of 80, 85, 90, right, do we see? Maybe very rare. Most likely people just are gone before that. सबका राम नाम सत्य हो जाता है उससे पहले ही. So for example, see, once few girls were looking around, and one old lady was passing by, and they were laughing at the old lady, the way she is walking, the way she is bent, her body is bent, she is walking with the stick, and she is looking for something. So these girls were looking at this old lady and kind of making fun of her bent body and laughing at her. And she was looking for something. So she came closer to these girls who were laughing at her, and she said, what are you laughing at? And these girls said, what are you looking for? And she said, I'm looking for my youth days. I'm looking for my Javani. I lost my young years here. Have we anybody find those young years? So she was basically kind of giving the message or trying to teach to these girls that everybody has to go through that phase, and everybody will turn old, and one day everybody is going to die. The point is, all of us have to face that situation. And interesting is, when somebody is dead, when the dead body is being taken to the funeral, everybody is saying Ram Naam Satya Hai, Ram Naam Satya Hai, right? In India, if you see the funeral procession, people are chanting these slogans, Ram Naam Satya Hai. Now, if you go to somebody's birthday party or somebody's marriage, and you started saying Ram Naam Satya Hai, Ram Naam Satya Hai, people will say, are you crazy? And they may start beating you up. This is auspicious occasion, birthday party or marriage party, and you are saying Ram Nam Satya Hai. Why? Because people think this Ram Nam Satya Hai to be chanted only at the time of death. But what is the meaning of Ram Nam Satya Hai? The name of Ram is truth. Ultimately, everything else is illusion. Everything else is false. If we may be here today, tomorrow we may not be there. Only Lord's name is the truth. So is Lord's name true only at the time of death, not while living? But we use these words, we use these phrases, but we really do not kind of realize the importance or the meaning of those phrases. So once there was another person, a rich businessman, and he is very attached to making money. He is always about business, 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 and he has never taken time off. At the old age, now his children have taken over his business, and these children, they thought we should send our father to some pilgrimage. And a group of devotees, they were going to pilgrimage to Tirth Yatra to Kashi, Haridwar, and they sent their father with them that, oh, you also go to pilgrimage. At least you will spend some time there and be free from this business responsibility. So he was sent with these devotees to go to one pilgrimage, and they were visiting at Kashi at the ghat, right, where the people take bath. And next to the ghat, there is a funeral pyre, or what you call as Shamshan Ghat, the funeral ground. So this person, he was taking bath and standing there looking at that Shamshan Ghat where people come and burn the dead bodies. And all of a sudden, somehow he started crying. And all the people, all the other devotees, they thought, oh, maybe finally he got some vairagya, looking at dead bodies coming here, people dying and coming here and being burnt here. So maybe he got vairagya in his heart. And they asked him, so why are you crying? And this person said, oh, I wasted all my life. And the devotees even became more assured that, oh, maybe really he got vairagya. So this person said, oh, I really wasted my life. I should have done business of selling the woods for the pyre. See, so many dead bodies come, so many dead bodies get burnt here, and I could have made much more money. So that is the mentality of some people, right? They are always just, even though we see people dying, we attend so many funeral ceremonies also, people develop kshanik vairagya, what is called as markat vairagya, okay, for small duration, thinking, yes, I will also be gone one day. But as they step out of the funeral ground again, then all that realization, all that little jnana which was coming, arising in the heart, again goes away. Again, they get into that same life, just working, taking care of body, taking care of family, enjoying the life and all that. So that's how people are spending all their life, not understanding what is the importance and how one should prepare one's consciousness to prepare for the final examination. Yeah, that's why it says life is preparation and death is examination. So all our actions throughout our life, all our thoughts, they are being recorded. Just imagine if you are driving on the street, and nowadays there are cameras at place to place, right? Where if you are driving over speed, if you are jumping the red light, they may click your photo, the car license plate number and all, and they may send the ticket at home. One may not realize that, oh, I got caught on the camera. But some people are scared of driving over speed or jumping the red light, thinking there are cameras and my action may get recorded and I may get ticket. But same way, all our actions, all our thoughts are also being recorded. And all those recorded videos will be examined at the time of our death. And who is that examiner? Yamaraj. And Yamaraj has appointed his secret photographer behind us. And what is the name of that secret photographer? Chitragupta. See, his name is also Chitragupta, who is taking all the photos secretly. गुप्त रूप से सबके चित्र ले रहा है. So Chitragupta. So not just action, but our thoughts are also being recorded. We cannot say, no, no, I did not do that. Immediately, Chitragupta is going to pull up our photo from the file. See, this is you, right? Isn't that you? Isn't that you in the photo? So all our actions are getting recorded. So that's why how we prepare our consciousness to prepare for that final examination. Life is preparation, death is examination. So the whole chapter is focused on this last question, how to remember the Lord at the time of death. And Krishna is telling the benefits of remembering him at the time of death. For example, the student is preparing for the exam all the year, and finally at the time of exam they are tested. So to be able to pass that exam, at the final exam, the student has to prepare throughout the year. Okay, it's not that just 2-3 hours before the exam somebody will open the textbook. They have not done any homework throughout the year. They have not attended any lectures throughout the year. and then just open the book 2-3 hours before the exam, and they will have no clue what to study and what to expect in the exam. So they have to prepare throughout the year for that final exam. And exam is only 2-3 hours compared to the full year of preparation. Right? In the exam, they don't have to ask the whole textbook. They will ask only few selected things. And if somebody is able to answer those few selected things, they can be judged of that, yes, they have studied the whole subject matter. So the final exam may be a short duration compared to the full year of preparation, but throughout the year also, the student has to give maybe small quizzes, some midterm, to estimate if they are headed in the right direction. So same way at the time of death, that is the final examination, right? That last minute of while giving up the body, what is our consciousness? Are we able to remember Krishna at that last minute? That is the final exam. But how do we know if I am heading toward that passing that final exam or not? Like the student has to give some quizzes and midterms to estimate if he's heading in the right direction. So same way in our life, some situations come to test our consciousness. Some problems may come in life, and how do we behave? How do we act during those problems of life? Sometimes somebody may have some loss, somebody may have gain, somebody have honor, somebody have dishonor. So during all these different situations of life, how do we act? That also tells what is our consciousness, because what is inside, that is going to come outside. If you squeeze a lemon, you cannot expect a mango juice to come out of that. What is inside lemon, that's what is going to come out. So same way, what is filled inside our consciousness, that is what is going to come out at the time of problem. If, for example, if somebody slipped on a banana peel, somebody is falling, somebody is just tripping over to something, then what happens all of a sudden? What comes out of the mouth in that scenario? People will call out, oh ma, oh shit, crap. Or somebody may say, oh Krishna. Right? So what comes out during that small things also, it tells what is our consciousness. Many people will use all these nonsense words. Oh shit, oh crap. And devotees generally what we call out, oh Krishna. Right? Even somebody sneezed, we say Krishna. So something happened all of a sudden, something, even immediately if the name of Lord comes out, it means our consciousness is heading towards the right direction. So what we remember, that's what we become. And even though somebody is preparing throughout the life, but if they are not able to remember at the time of death, that also fails them in the final exam. Another example, another analogy I will give is, let's say somebody is taking a photo. Okay. And the photographer may tell us, okay, get ready, please comb your hairs, okay, fix your collar. So somebody may dress up nicely, comb their hairs nicely, and at the time of taking picture, the photographer may say, okay, look into the camera, tilt your face a little left or right, down or up, and then smile please. And as he is pressing the button to take the photo, let's say all of a sudden a mosquito comes or a fly comes and sit on your nose, or a mosquito comes and enter into your nose, and your whole face expressions have changed, and he has pressed the button of taking the photo, and that particular face expression is captured in that photo, even though you were preparing so nicely to take that photo shot. But just at the right minute when the photographer is pressing the button, maybe you closed your eyes or something happened, some fly or mosquito came and your face expressions changed. That is what is captured. Okay. One may tell photographer, "Arey, why did you take this photo?" Photographer is not at fault. He just printed what was expressed. The same way, Krishna has 8.4 million varieties of photo prints. And what we remember at the time of death, that is the print button which is going to click. That okay, that is what your consciousness is at the time of death, and this is what I am printing as your next life. So the law of last thought, and Krishna is explaining that law of last thought in text 8.6. I did not cover 8.5 yet. I will come back to that. But 8.6, Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smarn bhavam tyajate ante kalevaram tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. Okay. So the law of last thought, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam, whatever consciousness one has, whatever thought one has at the time of death, that is the state one will attain without fail. So in this world, one must live and one must die. Is anyone in this call excluded from either birth or death? So Krishna says, right, in Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, one who has taken birth is sure to die, and one who has died is sure to take birth again. So people are very anxious, especially in today's society, to learn how to live very nicely, art of living. People are very anxious to accumulate as much wealth, prestige, power, luxury, so that they can live nicely. But they do not understand more important in this world, rather than to how to live nicely, is learning how to die nicely. So more important is how to die properly, how to die nicely, because death is the final exam. And we have many people who have gone through college. There are many intelligent people. What is the use if you go through all form of college, you go through all the classes, you go through all the seminars, you read all the books, but then you fail the final exam? Then what happens? You have to start all over again. You do not graduate to the next level, but you have to again start from the beginning of that same class again. So if everything we do, that culminates in how we perform in the final exam, and how we perform in the final exam is dependent on how we prepare ourselves during the course. So this human life is the course, and the final time, death time, is the examination. There are so many pastimes which are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. The pastime of Ajamila. The Ajamila at the time of death, even though because he has done so many of sinful activities, through a prostitute he produced 10 children, and at the time of death when the Yamadutas came, he called out to the name of his son, which happened to be Narayana. And Lord Narayana, out of his mercy, he sent the Vishnu Dutas to protect him. So Ajamila, because he called out the name of the Lord in that desperate situation, he was saved and he was given a second chance. It's not that the Lord took him back immediately, but he was given a second chance. And then when he was given the second chance, then he perfected, then he prepared for the final exam. He lived in Haridwar and he prepared himself. He performed all the austerities, chanting the holy name, fixing his consciousness on the Lord. So he prepared himself for the final exam. Then we know the pastime of Gajendra. Gajendra, at the time of his death, the last minute when he thought that crocodile is winning over him, at that desperate situation, he thinking of his last minute now, he called out to the Lord. He plucked a lotus flower in his trunk and offering to the Lord, calling out to the Lord. So he remembered the Lord at the last minute, and Lord appeared there, saved him, and took him back. And then another story we read about is Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj, even though he practiced throughout his life, chanting the holy name, remembering the Lord, he came to the stage of bhava also, but then he got attached to a deer. He gave up all his spiritual practice and he started just spending time with the deer, taking care of the deer. And at the time of his death, he was remembering this deer. He was thinking of this deer. So what happened? The law of last thought. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajte ante kalevaram tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tad bhav bhavita. Because he was remembering the deer, he took the birth in the form of a deer. But out of mercy, the Lord has given him his previous life memory as a devotee. So in the form of a deer also, he just roamed around the hermits of the sages, eating only the dry grass. And after giving up the life of deer, he again was born as a human being. And then in that life, as Jada Bharat, he perfected his life, not making that previous mistake. So these are so many different stories which are mentioned to supplement this verse of Bhagavad Gita which Krishna is teaching here. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. So in our life, we also go through so many different thoughts which is arising from ichha and dvesh, okay, which was spoken by Krishna in the last chapter also, text 7.27. So ichha and dvesh, the desire and hatred, because of that, we are in this material world and we continuously going through all those thoughts and those impressions. We are originally meant to serve the Lord, but we have forgotten the Lord and trying to enjoy ourselves. Krishna bholya jeev bhoga vancha kare, pashate maya tare japatiya dhare. So as soon as the living entity wants to enjoy life without Krishna, without God, immediately he becomes under the clutches of Maya. And because of our tendency to enjoy separate from Krishna, we are provided this facility of this material world. And we are trying to become happy. Like sometimes the parents give a doll to the child and the child is playing with the doll. They may arrange the doll's bedding. And after playing, the child will get hungry and then they will run back to the mother. Okay, mummy, please give me something to eat. I am very hungry. So in this material world, we may try to enjoy. Krishna has given us all these different dolls, different toys, okay, on the name of big house, the name of this big job and luxurious life, nice cars and all that. So these are also like different dolls given by Krishna to us to play with, to trying to become happy. But ultimately, all our endeavor to become happy, they end up in frustration. And then finally, the living entity turns toward Krishna. Krishna, I'm not happy. Please take me in your shelter. So this material world is considered like a prison house, and we need to get out of that prison house. And who can release us from the prison house? Only Krishna is capable to release us from this prison house. No other Devi Devatas can release us. Okay, for example, there is jail and there is jailer. And the prisoner who is in the jail, if he is behaving properly in the jail, the jailer may give some facilities by seeing the good behavior. But the jailer cannot release him on his own without the sanction of the government authorities. So same way in this prison house of this material world, Durga Devi, she is the jailer, she is the superintendent of this material world. So she can give us some facility when people approach Durga Devi, people worship Durga. She may provide them little facilities, some opulences within this material world, but she cannot release one from this material world. Ganesh ji can remove some obstacle, but cannot release. Even Lord Shiva cannot provide mukti. Lord Shiva can direct us on the path of mukti, but he himself cannot award mukti. Okay, Lord Shiva himself speaks that actually, that only Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna are provider of mukti, liberation. So here Krishna says, whatever is the thought at the last minute, that state one attains. That's why it's the law of last thought. Then how to attain Krishna? Text 8.5, Krishna has spoken, Antakale cha mameva smarna muktva kalevaram. So one who remembers me at the time of death, Antakale cha mam eva smarna muktva kalevaram. Yap prayati samad bhavam nayati asti atra sanshaya. So in that there is no doubt that that person will attain to me. If somebody remembers me at the time of death. So that is the benefit of remembering Krishna at the time of death, that one will attain to Krishna. And what is the danger of not remembering Krishna at the time of death? One will be going through the cycle of life, birth and death, going through different species of life. So to be able to remember Krishna at the time of death, we need to practice remembering Krishna throughout. Okay, it's not that one will think, at the time of my death, I will call out Krishna, Krishna, and then I will give up my life. One person actually once said, I will carry a gun, and when the life is too troublesome, I will just say Krishna and shoot myself. And then I will be able to attain Krishna and get out of this misery of the life. No, that's not how it works. Because the consciousness also has to be absorbed in Krishna. One cannot call out the name of Krishna all of a sudden once somebody has not prepared himself in that way. So we need to practice remembering Krishna throughout the life. And that is only possible if we chant the name of Krishna, if we read about Krishna, if we hear about Krishna. So people say, when I have time, then I will go to temple. When I have time, then I will chant the holy name. When I have time, then I will associate with the devotees. But when it comes to eating, sleeping, when it comes to going to your office, when it comes to maintaining our families, we never say, when I have time, then I will do this. When I have time, then I will eat. When I have time, then I will sleep. Okay, we think those are the high priorities. I have to do those things. We say, I do not have time for Krishna. I do not have time to become conscious about Krishna because I have to make a lot of money right now. I have to develop my business. I have to develop my practice. I have to develop good reputation. I have to make big in this world. So people do not put their efforts into this high priority of remembering Krishna and practicing to remember Krishna. But then how to practice remembering Krishna? That's why text 7, Krishna says himself, he is asking how to remember me at the time of death. Krishna uses the term tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmarya. So Krishna is saying in every situation, one should remember me. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. Every time you remember me. And not whimsically. Krishna says anusmara, not just smara, anusmara. Smara means to remember, smarana means to remember, anusmara means by following in the path of great personalities. So do not manufacture your own way of remembering. So Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha mai arpita manobuddhir mam evashyasi asamshayo. So you remember me at every time and then engage in your activities. Surrender your man and buddhi, mind and intelligence unto me. In that way, you will definitely come to me without doubt. Asamshaya. So in chapter 3, text 30, also Krishna spoke something similar, where Krishna is saying, Mai sarvani karamani संन्यास अध्यात्म चेतसा निराशीर निर्ममो भूत्वा युद्धस्व विगतः ज्वरा. So in both verses, chapter 3 text 30 and chapter 8 text 7, Krishna is saying, yes, do your activity. For Arjuna it was fighting, for us it may be maintaining our family, going to our work. So do your activity, always remembering me. Here Krishna is saying in text 30, Krishna in chapter 3 text 30, Krishna was saying, do your activity and surrender the result unto me. And engage your mind and intelligence in me. In text 8.7, Krishna is saying, first remember me, then do your activity. So remembrance comes first and then action. And if we remember Krishna while doing all our activities, in that way we can practice remembering Krishna at the time of death also. Otherwise, it's not possible to remember Krishna because whatever we have done throughout our life, that is what is going to come in front of our eyes, in front of the mirror of the mind. That whole movie will be played as fast forward movie, whatever activities we have done. And in this lifetime itself, people start switching their appearance to based on where their consciousness is. And how the consciousness develop, actually it also depends on our food also. What kind of food one intakes, that is how their consciousness becomes, and that's how their appearance also becomes. If somebody is eating goat, their whole physique also, their whole face also start to become like a goat. You may have seen some people who resembles like a goat. I don't know if you have seen, I have seen somebody face looks like a goat, or somebody's face look like a pig. So somebody who is eating particular thing, their appearance start to turn towards that and indicating what they're going to become in the next life also. Or somebody may have a particular appearance based on what they were earlier, right, from where they transmigrated. And somebody is eating sattvic food, ghee, butter, their appearance becomes very shiny, glowy, because butter, ghee, they are very glowing, shining appearance. So based on what one eat, their appearance becomes like that, and based on what we eat, that also develops our consciousness also. So that's why the importance of eating sattvic food, not thinking, oh, I need to gain protein, how can I get protein, I have to eat egg, I have to eat non-veg or this or that. No, there are so many ways one can maintain one's body and fulfill the basic requirements of the body by eating still the sattvic food. There is no dearth of protein in the sattvic vegetarian food. In milk, yogurt, the pulses, beans, there is so much protein available, which is enough for our dietary requirements. And why to take risk of gliding down the hellish path by consuming all these unconsumable things as milk and flesh are, egg and flesh and other things? So Krishna is saying, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu. Remember me at all times, not just once in a month, once in a week, or on a particular festival times, but at all times. So we'll stop here. We covered only up to 8.7, and we'll continue text 8 onwards in the next session. Okay, so let's see if there are any questions, comments. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, any discussion? Okay, nothing. Everything is very clear. What is the goal of life? How to pass the final exam?
Krishna Prabhu, goal of life, Prabhu.
What is that?
Saying the goal of life. The goal itself is goal, Prabhu.
Goal itself is goal. सब गोल है. सब गोलमाल है.
Of life. Yeah. Prabhu, I not captured the first 5 questions that you mentioned, Prabhu. That Arjun asked in the.
So first 5 questions are in the first text of chapter 8. Arjuna is asking, what is Brahman? What is Adi Adhyatma?
Yeah.
What is Karma? What is Adi Bhuta? What is Adi Deva?
Adi Bhuta and Adi Deva. Okay, Prabhu.
Those are the first 5 questions. Next question is, what is Adi Yagya and how does he lives in this body? And then how to remember the Supreme at the time of death, prayāṇa-kāle. So these are the total 8 questions.
8 questions. So just 8 questions are 5 in the text 1, and then 3 comes
in text 2.
Text 2, okay.
And Lord Krishna answered the first 7 very briefly in text 3 and 4. And the whole chapter, remaining chapter, is focused on the last question, because that is what is most important. And that's also, rather than saying immediately how, first Krishna explained why. Right? Text 5 and 6, Krishna is explaining why Why to remember the Supreme at the time of death? And then how? Krishna answers in 7 and 8, text 7 and 8, that Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu. Remember at all times. Then you will be able to remember at the time of death.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. So always remember Chitragupta, that he is secretly taking the photos.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, Prabhu. Chitragupta, yeah. Taking pictures secretly.
Yes.
Yeah.
गुप्त रूप से सबके चित्र ले रहे हैं.
Yeah.
Okay, if no other discussion, I think we can end it here. Vijay Prabhu, you have anything?
Prabhuji, this Ajamila, Canto 4 is dedicated to this story of Ajamila.
No, it's not in chapter Canto 6. It's not in Canto 4. It's in Canto 6.
Yeah, Canto 6. Prabhuji, a lot of huge number of chapters on Ajamila. Is it because he wants to convey some message through this Ajamila story?
Yeah.
Or why is that?
Why Ajamila got place in Bhagavatam? Because it's very important, right? Krishna is teaching a lesson that how one should live the life and how one should avoid engaging in such kind of activity which can degrade one's consciousness. But at the end, what is the ultimate beneficial? If one able to remember the Lord, then one can get the ultimate success of life. So that's why Ajamila's pastime is very important and it's very hope-giving. Right? That, okay, whatever I have done so far, I have done. If now also I take to the practice seriously, I can perfect my life.
But it may give a wrong picture also, that do the sin whole of the life.
No.
And then at the last.
So if somebody thinks that way, that's a whole wrong understanding of this chapter or this pastime. That is not the conclusion that, okay, I can do whatever nonsense throughout the life and then at the end, I will be able to remember Krishna. Ajamila got second chance because in his earlier life also he was practicing. And that he had that sukriti, that he was given this opportunity, this second chance. Ultimately, he named his child as Narayana because of the blessing of some sages. And earlier he was acting, doing his duties of as a Brahmana, okay, serving his deities, helping his parents and taking care of the ritualistic activities, Vedic rituals. So at least he was performing his duties, religious duties earlier, but he derailed from that. So he was given a second chance. We may not have that second chance, that opportunity of getting a second chance. Okay, and somebody thinks that, okay, I can do all nonsense, then I will chant the name of Krishna, all the sinful activities will be washed away. Then it's even more dangerous because then it becomes as an offense on the strength of chanting the holy name. Okay. Ajamila at least did not commit offense. He chanted the name of Krishna in a complete desperate, helpless situation. But if somebody chants the name of Krishna and intentionally commits sinful activities, thinking the chanting of Krishna's name will eradicate all the sin, that becomes a bigger offense. Okay, committing sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. So then one will not be purified of those sins. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.